To say the atmosphere in the banquet hall was strained after the hostage situation was an understatement. On one hand, Jaden was thankful that he didn't have to worry about trying to bring together the two people tonight. On the other, the thing he did have to worry about was the life of the only king worth his weight in power stones in the last century. Jaden tore at his collar. He was being strangled by his suit. At least his people had the decency to keep the fires low at this soiree. The last soiree thrown by the Elementi had left him sweating rivers. Tobias flashed his pocket mirror on the mezzanine, confirming everyone was in place. Jaden grimaced. I hope he'll be more discreet in relaying messages throughout the night. Belladonna was posed as a server, testing drinks for poison before they went out. Poisoning drinks was a desperate move, but it seemed all the more likely given Lord Naran didn't have his customary drink in his hand. Jade knew Francis should be stationed in the band near the king's dais, but he wouldn't bet his life on picking him out of the group. The man could blend into wallpaper. He remembered the first night they met. His uncle had hired Francis to assassinate him for being a Sinkin. Jaden remembered the last time he'd come that close to dying. He only survived when Casper managed to shove the assassin into a closet, and the two of them stuck every sword in his father's estate through the closet door. Francis managed to survive till morning. The Scarlet Society began the next morning when Jaden learned the Assassin's Guild had held Francis's sister captive to ensure his loyalty, and Jaden offered his resources to help free as many of the hostages as possible. You're awfully quiet tonight, Josephine commented, tearing at a loose thread on her glove. I'm just focused. Jaden almost wanted them to get the attempt on the king's life over with. All this waiting just stressed him out. The hostage situation has everyone tense. Josephine frowned. Does this have something to do with the clandestine meeting you had with Lady Emra in the garden? Oh, so the gardener was your spy. No, he's just the biggest gossip. Josephine laughed. If you want to marry her, I won't stand in your way, but sneaking around with her behind my back will only tarnish both of our reputations. Jaden's eyes snapped at her. No, this is just politics. Josephine rolled her eyes. You're a noble. Everything you do has to do with politics, especially marriage. A glint of light from Tobias caught Jaden's eye again. Avoid red drinks. The message came just as his father accepted one of the red drinks from a server. Sorry, I have to go. Jaden strode with purpose towards his father. Before his father could bring the drink to his lips, Jaden stumbled into him and knocked the drink from his hand. Unfortunately, Lord Gustav was standing next to his father. Well, I hope it's only poisonous when ingested. Jaden dabbed at Lord Gustav's suit. I am so sorry. I should have looked where I was going. I'm going to have to replace this, Lord Gustav grumbled. This was custom-tailored. Just tell him to put it on my account. That seemed to change the minor lord's opinion of the turn of events. Jaden whispered to his father, Don't drink anything you don't see prepared in front of you. Kern's eyes narrowed. Do you know something I don't? I'll get you another drink. Jaden didn't answer his question. Instead, he went to where he knew they stationed Belladonna as one of the servers. I need another sparkling cider. Belladonna offered him a fresh glass. Tobias flashed another mirror message. Female assailant with hat pin approaching the dais. There's no way I can get there in time. One of the violinists broke a string with a terrible screeching sound and caused the dancing partners to halt. The musician bowed. I will return with a new violin. Jaden covered and smiled. He didn't know that Francis could play. Francis left the stage and intercepted the woman. She didn't come quietly when he put a hand on her hairpin. The two of them struggled over the foot-long needle-like hairpin. The King's Guard and the Elemental Peacekeepers fought against the current of the crowd towards the fighting pair. While everyone's eyes were on the fight, Jaden watched several people putting their hands in their vests and walking against the crowd, with purpose, towards the dais where the king stood. Now it begins. Belladonna spilled a tray. He reluctantly followed her to the kitchen to be cleaned up. They wouldn't be seeing him the rest of the night, if ever. The King's Guard finally subdued Francis and the hat-pin-wielding woman. They were both escorted out of the soiree to be questioned. Several nondescript individuals stopped or distracted most of the witnesses. I left 5, maybe a few more who were less odd. Jaden didn't know how many more of his people were hidden in the crowd. For all he knew, he's the only thing between the king and death. He closed the distance between him and the king's dais. Josephine cornered Jaden before he could get halfway there. We need to talk about our arrangement now. Can we talk later? Maybe we can discuss this later when there are hundreds of people around us. Jaden resisted the urge to shove her out of the way. Josephine put her hand out to stop him. You've been acting strange all night, meeting with Emra, avoiding me. Now you want to speak with the king when you haven't so much as bowed in his direction since his coroning. I don't have time to explain, Jaden said through gritted teeth. You don't think I don't notice all the people making their way towards the king? Josephine whispered. What have you gotten yourself into, Jaden? No. You're wrong. Bennett gripped him by the throat as the men continued unfettered, trying to stop them from making a grave mistake that will cost us the best we've had in centuries and our only hope of defeating the Animalians. Caspar appeared and pulled Jaden away. My lord, you have a pressing matter you must attend to. Please excuse us, Lady Josephine. Jaden waited to hear her reply and follow Caspar. Where are we going? A shortcut. Caspar pushed aside a tapestry and entered the servants' hall. The old man broke into a run as soon as the tapestry closed behind them, and Jaden matched his pace. They went down a short flight of stairs until they came to a locked door. Caspar produced a ring of keys and unlocked it. They hurried up a narrow set of stairs until they came to a chapter. We'll come up behind the dais. No one will see where he came from. I'm impressed. Jaden wasted no time in pulling himself up, and not a moment too soon. The shady characters that had breathed a ring of plainclothes trying to blend into. Lord Edgar! Jaden clapped the man on the shoulder. How's your sister? Let me get you a drink. The man stared at him without a lick of recognition. I think that you have. I heard this down in the kitchen. Jaden kept a hand around the back of the man's neck and led him towards the servant hall. As soon as they were behind the tapestry, the facade dropped, and the man struck Jaden in the gut. I was going to ask how you want to do this, but I guess it's the hard way. Jaden activated his power stone and slammed a fist into the man's head. But the man dodged that fist with unnatural speed and left an orange trail of light in his wake. He hit his torso with several rapid-fire punches. Jaden swung his fist and missed again. Might be better off trying to beat him without it. The assassin headed for the exit and ran to the room Caspar held out in front of him. Jaden made quick work of him. Caspar produced a rope from one of the storage closets, and they left the unconscious assassin inside. Good thinking, Builder. You could already feel the bruises forming on his chest. I will need Belladonna to whip up another batch of our healing oil. We are already finished waiting for you in your room. Caspar dusted off his jacket and parted the tapestry. Lady Josephine was on the other side, with an irate look on her. Josephine! Jaden started and cleared his throat. Sorry, Caspar had to pull me away. There was a letter that needed immediate reply. He was going to have to things off with her tomorrow. He couldn't keep up with his responsibilities and entertain such a clever woman at the same time. Before Josephine could get a word in, the doorman announced, High Priestess Isidora, accompanied by understudy Apollo. All activity in the room came to a standstill. Jaden breathed a sigh of relief. As far as he could recall, the followers of the creator had never graced the ambassadorial halls with their presence before, but this was a tumultuous time, and he was thankful for this. The assassins would think twice before killing the holy people. In the silence, the followers' footsteps resounding clink as their crystalline feet tapped against the marble floor. It was shapeless, but these literal living statues were the blessed people created. Back at the most ancient written account of history of the civilized countries and find their name mentioned. High Priestess Sidara stood a head taller than some of her counterparts. She pushed back her hood to reveal her semi-transparent, multifaceted face. In place of hair, a crown of crystals sprouted from her head. We have come from the Shroudfoot. While we have traveled through the countries, we've spoken the messages to deliver. You can choose the lawlessness of the Animalian clans, or you can choose the righteous way of the Creator. Priest Rael continued where the High Priestess left off. These are dark times, which everyone is making choices which they may not be proud of. You're called to lawlessness, but you do not have to let your soul with it. Their understudy kept his head bowed respectfully as he listened to his mentors preach. The way he fidgeted seemed agitated. Perhaps he was just tired from their long journey. Mikkel, please fetch some water for the followers. Sarah's voice broke the spell that had settled upon the banquet room with the sudden appearance of the followers. Are you saying we have no chance of surviving the Animalians' onslaught? Lord Neron sneered. Of course he's going to be the first to object. Jaden caught Emra looking at him. Soon, our plans will come to fruition. We won't have to worry about him anymore. Mikkel brought a flask of water to Sahara and offered it to the understudy. He looked surprised. Divided, you are sheep still wolves. You cannot overcome it, the High Priestess Sidara said. United by your shepherd, the Creator above, you may trample the wolves that threaten you. But if you choose to stay divided, your countries will fall, but your souls not have to fall with them. Priest Raphael waited until the din of voices calmed as a proclamation of the coming destruction of the countries. Your choices are as follows. You can unite and triumph over your enemies, Priestess Adar continued. Or you will stay divided and let your countries fall into the hands of the unbelievers. Before anyone could ask any other questions, the understudy spoke. We have been traveling for the past moon to find ourselves here. We do not ask for anything other than a place to exist until we must depart. 1,000 voices offered for the followers to take their, and it was no surprise to Jaden that the understudy accepted Sahara's offer. As Jaden predicted, the rest of the night passed somewhat uneventfully, thanks to the presence of the followers of the Creator. People trickled out as hours passed long into the night. Many of them would have at least have to act like they were sober and alert in the morning. Jaden wasn't looking forward to facing the morning. I'm going to have to drink my weight in kava today. Lady Josephine caught his eye, and Jaden didn't have any reason to refuse to talk to her this time. He motioned her over. She excused herself from her father, and he intercepted her halfway across the room. You ready to talk to me now? Jaden rubbed the back of his neck. Well, things seemed to have calmed down after the followers appeared. Josephine bit her lip. My father has bankrupted us with his agreement to the union terms. Oh, Creator. Jaden's stomach dropped. His family was the richest in the province. What did the workers' union ask for? As you can imagine, our current arrangement won't work for me any longer. Josephine twisted her gloves in her hands. She has to marry someone rich enough to keep their factories afloat. Jaden was rich enough, but almost all of his allowance and then some went towards running the Scarlet Society. He couldn't afford to keep her factories running, pay for the Scarlet's expenses, protect his family and hers. It's a pity. She's a clever woman, and she might even understand the importance of the Scarlet Society, given time. Of course, I release you from any previous agreements. If you or your family needs anything, let me know and I'll see what I can do. Jaden offered. Josephine's expression was unreadable. It's late. I should get my father to bed. Jaden couldn't help but feel that he was missing something. The king didn't, and the crowd continued to thin. Jaden's people and the assassins would likely be the last to leave. He didn't want his father and mother around for the fallout. Casper, go invent some urgent matter my parents and the Taj we need to attend to. Casper, I'll think of something for you to stand off to the side the entire night. Go, socialize. Jaden groaned. He was right. With a half smile, he approached the king's circle. King Dresden laughed when his queen looked positive, mortified. That's when I told her, you can have pearls or you can have wine, but you can't have pearls in wine. The small group laughed. You know, I've always wanted to try that elementary delicacy, Jaden commented, but pearls are in such short supply after the Animalians annexed the coast. Well said, King Dresden chuckled. If Nadine wants to try it for herself, I'd move heaven and earth to get it for her. It was far too costly to serve to all of our wedding guests. Ah, Jaden bit the inside of his cheek. Perhaps I overstepped. I don't think we've been introduced. Queen Nadine's gentle smile hid a keen mind. Oh, of course, where are my manners? I'm Lord Jaden Calistine, son of the Lord Master. Jaden bowed before the king and queen. Oh, I met your sister, Roxanne, I believe. She was positive. Queen Nadine gushed. That single comment would sustain Roxanne for years, Jaden smiled. Court life suits her. I agree. The sparkle in Queen Nadine's eye worried him. To be friendly with her, but to be friends, or even worse, attendants, was a death sentence. Casper led his parents and the Taj out of the bed. Another drink, Your Majesty? Belladonna asked in the guise of a server. The king waved off her tray. No, thanks, I thank you all for your wonder. Retire to my room. Jaden watched them leave, horses in tow, and sighed with relief. Somehow, we managed to keep the king alive through the soiree. The report of a musket pierced the silence, and Queen Nadine's scream echoed down the corridor. Just had to jinx it. Jaden slid to a stop and surveyed the scene before him. They had pinned the royals behind an upturned table. Musket-wielding traitors were hidden throughout the corridor. Jaden couldn't approach the royals without the guards mistaking him for another assassin, so he'd have to work in the shadows. Retraced his steps to the banquet hall and slipped into the kitchen. The servants glanced his way and then ignored him while they cleaned after the event. Jaden ducked into the servants' hall and found the closet he was looking for. He pulled down a package wrapped in brown paper. Inside was a red Scarlet Society uniform. Jaden struggled with leaving his own dagger behind, but someone was bound to recognize it. The lizard braces were laced too tight, but he untangled the mess, so he left them with his stuffy suit. The loose-fitting linen tunic and pants allowed him to move much more easily. He slipped the full-coverage wooden mask over his face and took to the corridor in a full sprint. The only thing that he kept was his boots, and he sincerely doubted anyone had paid much attention to what he was wearing. Jaden followed the sound of the conflict. A musket-wielding traitor wearing a red bandana over his face ducked behind the tapestry into the servants' hall. Jaden activated his stone so it covered his arm in stone, but best of him. He decked the traitor. Pick a different color. He tore the bandana off the unconscious man's face and was dismayed he didn't recognize him. Traitor! King Dresden called out. He pulled aside the tapestry. One of the king's guards was threatening him. The Mineralite Superiority movement has much further reach than I thought. If they could get one of their men on the king's guard, one of them into betraying him. Say the same of you, your majesty, the guard sneered. You are one breath away from impaling yourself on my poison-coated blade. Belladonna's smooth voice came from the shadows behind the man. The guard froze. Jaden used the distraction to burst out into the hall. A hail of bullets rained down on him. Rather than activate his stone armor, he used his stone armor to stop each individual bullet and a stone so it wouldn't ricochet. When the traitors stopped to reload, he rushed to the closest ones. They struggled over the musket, but Jaden couldn't get a grip enough with his gloves. The traitor smashed his face with the butt of the gun, and Jaden saw stars. He didn't think, he just did what was necessary, and the man crumpled to the ground. Jaden knows with his sleeve. They were engaged with the King's Guard or the Scarlet Society. He inwardly cursed the easy, noble lifestyle that created indefensible layouts of these halls. He glanced at the royal couple. The guard who had threatened their lives was missing, and a red-clad arm struck out from behind the upturned table. Jaden rushed towards the table and was relieved to find the king and the queen unharmed. He grimaced, but the same could be said for Scarlet. He peered into the dim servants' corridor. A Scarlet wearing Belladonna's signature hood appeared from the gloom. Jaden signed, escaped traitor, wearing the King's Guard's uniform. Didn't see. Belladonna shook her head and signed back. Secret route? It's too late. He fled as soon as you all appeared. The king watched them with calculating eyes. If you truly do care about my safety, you will help me my guard to clean up the rest of these traitors. Jaden offered the king a dagger handle first and ran to join the rest of his people. A jolt of fear shot through him when he realized the queen's eyes had been on his boots. Surely she wouldn't remember what he'd been wearing. Jaden watched as Tobias paced in the borrowed servants' quarters. He escaped somewhere in the ambassadorial halls. The enforcers and guards are searching everywhere, but if he got to the tunnels, he could be halfway to the mineral. Arms glared at Belladonna. If you had stayed where you were stationed, maybe the treacherous King's Guard wouldn't have got away. What are you talking about? Belladonna asked as she cleaned Francis's wounds. She frowned. Stitches. I saw you abandon your post, Ashen pointed an accusatory finger at her, and you didn't show up until after the guard had already escaped. Speak plainly, Ash. Exactly what you're trying to imply. Belladonna's voice held a dangerous edge. The only way he could have escaped is if he had outside help. Tobias held up his hand. The Mineralite Superiority movement has many supporters, but I doubt Belladonna and Element is one of them. We can't let this spy business make us paranoid and turn against each other. Ashen sat down stiffly. I apologize. I wasn't thinking clearly. Belladonna nodded. I understand, but I'd appreciate it if you didn't doubt my loyalty again. Jaden held the ice pack to his aching forehead. The king is still alive, and he knows he owes a debt to the Scarlet Society. We have one assassin in our custody, and eventually he will reveal the Mineralite Superiority movement as the instigators of the plot. That seemed to mollify Ashen. Jaden grunted. Lady Josephine's family has fallen on hard times. She won't be able to accompany me to the soirees anymore. See if any of the Scarlet sympathetic nobles are interested in marrying into her family. They need someone rich to keep the factories running while they negotiate a better deal with the workers' union. Casper made a note of the order in his black book. Why not marry her? Jaden asked. She's clever enough to be a good match for you. I don't have the money to keep the lights on and fund the Scarlet Society. Francis smirked. Only he could think of such things while getting stitches. But you do like her. Jaden rolled his eyes. I wish I didn't. I already have 3 sisters and my parents to protect. I can't take on the responsibility of protecting her, her parents, and her extended family from the repercussions of the Scarlet Society. Casper tapped his black book, so we'll have to find another unattached noblewoman to make an arrangement with. Jaden sighed. Things would have gone much easier if I didn't have to attend Lady Josephine. She nearly uncovered my exploits several times. Casper snorted. If you attend the soiree alone, Lady Emma will probably propose to you, and your father will accept on your behalf. Francis piped up. The woman was a member of the Scarlet Society. You wouldn't have to hide me, and she could even cover for you. Everyone glanced at Belladonna. Belladonna laughed and cut the thread. Respectfully, you don't pay me enough for that. Francis rubbed his face. I might know a girl, but we're going to have to invent a noble identity for her. Casper nodded. Leave that to me. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. And I would love to hear you guys' feedback on which character is your favorite so far. I went ahead and dropped a link to all of the previous chapters so you can catch up if you are new, and you can be able to enjoy all the chapters that are out so far. Next week, we're going to be revisiting Milo and finding out how the exiles are doing in Chapter 16, The Foggy Valley. Junia, Milo, and Pierre have finally found the Foggy Valley, but they missed the bandits once again. Rock climbing, sentient flora, and portals. Don't miss next week's Chapter 16.